Hey guys, it's Luke from Cloud English, and today you are going to learn 6 words from the news. We're going to look at 3 different news stories and learn 2 words from each one. First, we'll talk about a controversy at Twitter with Elon Musk. Then we'll look at a story related to the Oscars, and then we'll talk a bit about the Holi festival. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Now let's get into it. The first story we're going to talk about is a controversy that happened recently at Twitter with Elon Musk and a previous Twitter employee. The first word that we're going to learn is the word mocking or mock. Mocking or mock. Let's first look at it in context and then talk about what it means and how it's used. So in the title of this article, Elon Musk apologizes after mocking disabled Twitter employee. This is the title of this article. So, what does mocking mean here? To mock someone is to make fun of them, to try to make them feel bad, to try to humiliate them. Now, sometimes this could be as a joke, it could be not too serious, but it's often focusing on the mean-spirited intention. And we might say, "Are you mocking me? Are you trying to mock me?" This is often how mock or mocking are used. Now let's talk about our next word from the same story. Our next word is exchange. And you might know this word, exchange. Like when I buy the wrong thing and then I go to the store and exchange it for something else? Yes, but it can be used in an interesting way. Let's look at it in context first. In this same story about Elon Musk mocking a Twitter employee, we see eventually he got his answer after a surreal Twitter exchange. So what does exchange mean in this case? Surreal might be very strange, but the exchange part is this back and forth. So what's the difference between exchange and conversation? Well, usually an exchange is very brief and it is about a specific thing. We had a brief exchange. We had a friendly exchange. We had a tense exchange. So a conversation might be longer, more drawn out. That's generally the difference between something like exchange and discussion or conversation. Now let's move on to our next story. We're going to talk about the Oscars. Our first word related to the Oscars story is spark. Spark. Perhaps you've heard of this, but how can it be used related to the Oscars and entertainment? Well, let's take a look in context first. So we see in the title of this article, Yeoh Instagram post about fellow Oscar nominee sparks Academy rule confusion debate. Now, that title by itself is a bit of a mouthful, but look at this right here. Oscar nominee sparks Academy rule confusion. So to spark something is to begin it. You might spark a debate. You might spark a discussion. You might spark a controversy. You might spark excitement. This is the initial thing that's going to start the confusion, that's going to start the discussion. So it's not negative or positive. The focus on this one is about this very beginning thing, right? And so in that way, it's the same as the spark that starts a fire. Sometimes this is used in a broader context to spark a revolution, for example. So it can be very, very useful. That little thing that begins something much bigger. Now, somewhat similar in this same article, we have a stir. A stir like stirring a drink? What is this? Well, let's look at it in context. So here we have Michelle Yeoh causes a stir when snippets of a Vogue article were shared on her Instagram account. So to cause a stir is not to spark something, but this is when there's some controversy. This is when people hear it and they say, oh, I don't, and they start debating, or they have different opinions on both sides. There's a disruption happening. So you can kind of think of it as things were just sitting there and then something happened, something sparked something, and it caused a stir in the same way that you would stir a drink. And when you stir a drink, you kind of mix things up, right? And when you mix things up, people start talking. People say, I disagree with you. I don't think so. That's wrong. So now we have two sides, and this whole thing is a stir. And usually the phrase is to cause a stir. That is the most common phrase for that. Okay, now let's look at our final story, the Holi festival. Well, what's the story? It happened. That's the story. But I want to look at a few words from a specific article. And the first word I want to look at is the word bash. Now you might think bash, that is the action of sort of smashing someone, to bash someone over the head with something. That sounds violent. What is that? Well, we have another way, an interesting way to use it. Let's look at it in context. Bollywood and other celebrities organized bashes for friends and posted photos on social media. So if they organized bashes, this sounds like a good thing, right? Organized bashes for friends and posted photos on social media. Sounds pretty fun to me. So a bash, if you're using bash as a noun rather than a verb, is usually a fun thing. It's like a fun party, right? Often we'll say something like a big birthday bash. So just to be clear, bash as a verb, usually that is related to hitting someone. I bashed my head on the counter yesterday. But bash as in a party, as a noun, birthday bash, anniversary bash, Holi bash, right? Is this usually big fun celebration or party? Okay, now let's look at our next word related to this same article. Our next word is triumph. Have you heard this word before? Triumph? Well, you might have heard variations of it. How is it used? Is it usually used as a verb, as a noun? Well, let's look at it in context. First, on Tuesday night, people got into the mood by making bonfires, this is at their bashes, I would say, with logs of wood in open spaces to commemorate the triumph of good over evil. The triumph. So here it is used as a noun. So if you have a triumph, that is a victory of one thing over another. In this case, good over evil. But you could say that was a major triumph for me in my career, or something like that. Maybe you passed a huge exam. That can be a triumph as well. It does have a bit of a formal feeling to it. We wouldn't use it usually for, I don't know, successfully finding something you thought you had lost in the refrigerator, right? And say, I found it. It's a triumph. Probably not. Usually for bigger things. So, we talked about 6 words in this article. Are you able to use all of them in context? If you have any questions or you would like to try to use them in context, put them in the comments. I would love to take a look. Also, if you have any questions, let me know. If you haven't already done so, don't forget to hit the like button and make sure to subscribe so that you can see future videos as well. And check out my full courses in the links in the description. You can get a free course, Natural English Conversations. That is also in the links in the description. That's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.